everybody, and welcome to Grand Slam KBO, our weekly podcast on the Korean Baseball League. This is week 10. On this week's show, we ask a devoted LG Twins fan in Scotland about supporting a baseball club that always sees its biggest rivals winning championship after championship. There's the latest installment of Grand Slam KBO Hall of Fame, and we chat about our first KBO experiences. We have a website, grandslamkbo.com, a YouTube channel, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're all on Twitter, at Grand Slam KBO, at Chimek Baseball, at Grand Slam Hider, and at probably_Brad. My name is Andrew Farrell. Matthew Kerr is away for the weekend, so it'll be Bradley Hider joining me. Our special guest is Inverness-based LG Twins fan Stephen Hendry, and he began the show by discussing how he gets to watch Korean baseball from abroad.
Hopefully they're not listening to this too closely and I'm not like circumventing some sort of rule. But basically there's been issues on and off. There used to be highlights on YouTube, which you could watch, but they got pulled. SPO TV used to do it, SPO TV, what you call them. This year, Naver TV was blocked, like for any live games, geo-blocked at the start. So you could watch it through Twitch, but now Naver TV works again. So it seems completely inconsistent. Taiwan, a deal with Taiwan a couple of years ago and things became a bit more difficult. But it works for now. The interesting thing is if I'm on their official KBO website, I can't watch the highlights. So there's inconsistencies. For now, touch wood, I can watch any game live. So hopefully it'll stay that way. They're blocking, they've got EPL and what have you, they block that. So I think there's a reason they've left it open. I think I emailed them actually and moaned at them. I'm not saying my email did anything, but I said, I'm not going to follow, keep an interest unless you kind of allow us to watch the games. So, it's kind of counterproductive blocking it in certain countries. So I'll just take credit for the fact that it's working again.
Yeah, the pity you can't watch the highlights. Do you make the effort to wake up? I know it's not that, it's about 10:30 in the morning where you are to watch the midweek games and around 10 o'clock or so in the morning to watch the weekend games. Do you tend to wake up early often to watch KBO games?
I mean, yeah, obviously that's not early for a lot of people. For me, it sometimes is. But yeah, I mean, during lockdown, I'm a teacher, so we were working from home. I'm not going to lie, there were a lot of times I was doing work meetings with the game sort of casting through my TV in the background. So yeah, I do watch. I mean, when I go back to school, I won't be able to do that because I'll be physically in school. But yeah, the games when they kick off early, when they start early, the 2 p.m. games, they start at I think 6 a.m. I have stayed up, just not gone to sleep, and watched the games. If I've been out in a bar at night, and I've got a mate in America who lives in LA, Tim, his name is, and Andrew, a guy called Andrew who's still in Seoul. So we'll sometimes be sitting chatting about the game at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. Maybe after I've watched some, UFC or whatever, we'll stick the KBO on. So that's quite fun as well. That's not so good when they turn to 9 a.m. games. Can't really stay up till 9 a.m. to watch a game. Could get up for a 9 a.m. game though.
I got a question for you. You talked about your return visit to Seoul or to Korea. So, yeah. Question for you. There's no COVID. There's free range of travel. You come back to Korea to watch 2 games. Obviously, they're going to be LG Twins games. Tell me, which ballparks do you want to see these games in? And, of course, who do you want to see them play?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'd love it if it was a playoff game. But let's discount that for now because I know that's a completely different kettle of fish. It wouldn't matter who as well you were playing. If it was a playoff game, it would be awesome. So I'd have to go to Jamsil again, without a doubt. You'd probably prefer it to be a weekend game, although there's something really nice about my favourite Jamsil moments have actually been midweek games under the lights because you also get a chance at better seats. You can get close to the cheering section. So it would have to be a Doosan game, I guess, at home. But Kia is good as well, or anyone that brings a good set of traveling fans. The singing, is always good. But we'll go with Doosan at home. And I've not been to. I could say the new Kia Stadium, but I think I want to go to Daejeon. Maybe go to an Eagles game, Twins Eagles. Just because I think, from what I've heard, I mean, I heard it on the podcast a couple of years ago. I think you had a guy that's a big Hanwha fan on, and he was just, it was when Hoying was tearing the league up a couple of years ago. And just, I think he sold it to me. He was talking about the experience at
sure,
whatever in the Daejeon Stadium. What's it called?
Yeah. Hanbat,
yeah.
Yagujeong. There's also Eagles Park at Hanbat Stadium. I think it's most recently called Park. I've been there a couple of times myself. That's a great choice. It's a great ballpark, and it definitely has its charm. So I recommend that.
I think that would be the two, because I've not been. I've been to Sajik. I've been to. There's only a couple. I've not been to the UNC one. I went to when I was down last time. I was on holiday. I went to when Lotte play their game out of town. You know, there's another mini. You know, I made the effort to go there when I was down in Busan. But definitely haven't done Daejeon and would like to.
Okay, check it out.
If you want some tips on how to potentially change teams here in the KBO, I know the perfect man who can let you know how to do that. And he's also on this podcast today. Bradley, you can tell other listeners how you changed from the Doosan Bears to the NC Dinos maybe at some point, and maybe give some pointers there for anybody else who wants to do it.
Yeah, well, for anyone who's ever transitioned from one religion to another, it's a similar process.
So I want to show you guys something before we talk a bit further about Stephen's team, the LG Twins. This is what the current KBO standings look like. I'm going to share the screen with you boys now. So when the season started, Stephen, did you have where did you expect the LG Twins to finish? Around a fourth spot at the moment. Does that look about right to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd like them to push for the top two, but it was you that actually, you know, I remember having the discussion a couple of years ago when we went to that game in the next LG game at the time. It's just the strength of the bat, I think. So I hoped that, well, Ramos is quite potent, but I think LG needs everyone fit to really threaten. You know, Cheon Sung's had a spell out. So I think, third, fourth is about the best I could hope for, I think. And I think they've hung on pretty well because they had a spell where they had lost. Kim Min Sung was out, Cheon Sung was out, Park Young Taek's gone. And they didn't completely blow up. So I think they've hung on in there. If everyone's fit, I'm still convinced they could go on a run and be a threat. But obviously the optimist in me is perhaps driving that. So it's about right, I think.
Okay. I don't really like the team that's top of the table there. It seems like a team that's eventually going to fall away and maybe finish in there around fifth or sixth, but they also seem to be holding on unexpectedly to top spot, Brad.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But I agree. I mean, they lost, what was it, at least one. I think they lost 2 out of 3 games this week to the Eagles. So I don't see how you can expect to maintain dominance on the table when you're losing to the last place team.
Okay, well, that's the league table for now. We'll probably go into a little bit more depth on that next Sunday's show. There's a meme that goes around. You guys have definitely seen it a bunch of times, and it's changed my opinion or something. There's like a statement that's made and it changed my opinion. A buddy sitting there holding a cup of coffee. If that statement said, "It's terrible to be an LG Twins fan," change my mind or change my opinion, what would you come back to them with, Stephen?
Well, kind of, the reason I got into the Twins was a bit of it's not a story as such, but I didn't really like baseball. It was a sport I'd never managed to get into, but I went to the stadium to kind of, just go for the social, the chicken, the beer. And then the second time I went back, I think LG came back that game, but the team names mean nothing to me at that time. The second time I went back, the song stuck in my mind, and I realized, actually this is the same team I came to see last time, and that's when I chose the LG Twins. And they won that game again. Park Young Taek song, all these songs. So then I went home to read about the teams, and I found out that they're obviously, in terms of their finances, not very good. They pretty much underachieve. And well, that's basically how I would sell it. The passion is there. I am from Scotland. I'm really glad I'm not a Rangers or a Celtic fan because they continually win. So for me, I'd much rather support a team that when the win comes, when the victory comes, it's going to be massive. I think they've got a loyal fan base, as every KBO club does. Not going to try and win any points there, but just guys turning up every week. But when they hit, it's going to be massive. So that's for me is what I would say. And if you were to be a Twins fan, it's obviously based in Seoul. They do take reasonable supporters away when they're doing well. So and Park Young-taek, but unfortunately it's his last season. But there's no bigger legend in my opinion in Korean baseball. So yeah.
Brad, we talked about this before. Like, can you imagine if you were new to this league and you wanted to pick up a team, LG Twins or Lotte Giants, two massive teams that haven't won it for a long time? Can you imagine that party outside the stadium when they finally end nearly 30 years of hurt? That'd be a pretty cool thing to be part of.
It'd be one heck of a party for both teams. But just in my experiences traveling around this country and being at games where the LG Twins, the Lotte Giants fans are the visiting team, I got to say, I'd be happy to be at either party. But I think the Giants fans, they're just insane with those plastic bags over their heads.
Yeah.
And I said that right. They have literally plastic bags on their heads. But yeah, I think it would be a great relief, and I think it would be pretty exciting for both teams. Like the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, 109 years. Maybe it'd be pretty tough if LG went that long. Do you think you'd be selling this to your grandchildren then, Stephen, and then maybe they could turn up in Jamsil 109 years from now and maybe welcome in that long overdue success?
I think there's a chance it will go that long, especially the way my sort of sporting success goes in terms of the teams I follow. Scotland haven't qualified for a World Cup in 22 years now. We will definitely qualify for the one in Qatar because no alcohol. It's the hottest place in the world. This is 100% the one that Scotland are going to qualify for. The one really not made for Scots. But yeah, I think LG will be waiting a bit longer.
We'll probably see you there as an Irish fan as well, in the hottest place on earth. So Park Young-taek comes up a lot in your memories of Korean baseball. You mentioned some interesting things as well, because your first KBO experience, I remember my one really, really well, and that was 11 years ago, and that was Kia against LG. But you said you weren't really hooked on your first experience.
I certainly enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it enough I wanted to go back 2 weeks later. But as I say, I tried to get into MLB before I found it difficult. I consider myself a sports, I'm into everything, but MLB I found a little tricky. But yeah, so the KBO, I kind of wasn't really going to get into the sport. I was just going for the social. So it did hook me a bit the first time, enough to go back the second time. But the second time I was done. Second inning in the second game, I'm like, I remember that song. Just seeing the ball making contact with the bat, it makes that sort of piercing noise. I'd been to MLB games in, the States. I'd been to Yankees games. I'd been to San Francisco Giants. Something about Korean baseball, though. I think it was having a team made me interested in the sport. So it was just absolutely, I was hooked by the second time. And my mum came to visit that year, and she came to a game, and I kind of tried to sell her that, have a beer, by the fourth inning, she was calling balls, she was calling strikes.
Probably better than the umpires as well.
Yeah, and that's actually something I really enjoyed about going to the baseball. If I took somebody to the game that wasn't a baseball enthusiast, I myself wasn't before, but I could teach them a little bit about what I knew, and then see them after 3 or 4 innings, they start calling themselves, So I think it's really pleasurable to get people into it, that maybe we're a bit skeptical. At the same time, if I was going with somebody more knowledgeable, just sort of chewing their, chewing their ear a little bit, asking for their opinion and building my knowledge up. Yeah. So just basically very lucky I didn't go to a Doosan game first. It would not have been the same. I think walking into success first year would not have been as exciting.
Bradley, you have an NHL suggestion there.
So I gathered from what you said that you don't latch on to the teams with recent success, which I admire. You like to follow the team through thick and thin, and if you have any interest in professional ice hockey, you got to go with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what I'm going to say. As a fan of their biggest rival, like there's no better team at losing than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay, yeah, I don't deliberately choose losing teams. I don't like look at the first and then say this is going to be my team. It's they choose me, and then I find out afterwards that they're rubbish. So
yeah, well, the Maple Leafs are calling, so there you go.
They've got a lot of money too, haven't they?
They do. They have one of the biggest payrolls in the league, and they don't show it through results. So, yeah, it's also for hockey players one of the most desirable markets to play in. But despite that, anyways, that's all I got to say.
That's what it's on the podcast for, just sell them at the Maple Leafs. What did you say? 1967, last Stanley Cup.
1967, that's right. Canada's Centennial was the last time they won the Stanley Cup, the final, the championship, yes.
So a lot of talk about Doosan Bears there, and you're glad you didn't go to your first game being a Doosan Bears fan. Is it hard being a LG Twins fan and seeing the Bears hoover up so many championships in a short period of time? Or is that the team that – okay, the reason why I asked that question is because there was that survey done here about a month or two ago where a lot of Doosan Bears fans ranked LG as their third biggest rivalry in the KBO, not their first or second one. But the LG Twins fans undeniably had Doosan, or like unquestionably had Doosan as their biggest rival. Is that the way it is for you too?
Yeah, and there is an element, when I've been to a Doosan game, and there is a wee bit of jealousy there, because it's just a constant party. But I think that there's more of a rivalry for LG fans because they were the first in the stadium, and I think there's a little bit of their lodging at our place a little bit. So definitely that's going to hurt a little bit if they're only the third sort of rivals, but it'll change. LG will turn it around, and we'll have our day. I'm certain of it. Also, we don't cheat our way to these championships. Doosan, I mean, how many scandals have they had over the years? We're clean. As clean as you can get.
Or you just don't get caught. That's all.
Or we're not very good at it. I think it's obviously they're the biggest rivals for us.
Okay, so then on the just kind of back to those Doosan Bears, LG Twins, the games in Jamsil himself, because you're a big football fan in Scotland. You're saying off air that you're a Hearts fan based in Edinburgh. How do you compare a game in Korea to a Scottish Premier League game?
That's a really good question, and it's one I've tried to explain to people here. They don't understand how the atmospheres can compare. I would say they kind of don't really compare, and I wouldn't try and rank one above the other. Going to a big Scottish football game at Tynecastle or wherever, Tynecastle's really tight sort of stadium. I mean, when it's against Hibs, Rangers, Celtic, it's unbelievable. The atmosphere is unbelievable. But I would say the atmosphere at Scottish football games is quite inconsistent. If I go to Hearts v St Johnstone in a cold November, it's not the same atmosphere. Whereas Korean baseball, it's every time. It's exciting every time. It's just, the cheering's happening every time. So, yeah, you're guaranteed a good time at a Korean baseball game. And just the fact you can have your beers, the fact that every player, if you've got a favourite song, say you Gangnam song comes on, you're going to hear that song 3 or 4 times. And just when that pop of a hit happens and the song comes back on, and you just never get bored. You go twice a week, it never gets boring.
Yeah.
Something I think you have to do to experience. People will say to me, "Oh, but I've been to MLB games. It was fine. It wasn't like." It's not the same. It's not the same going to an MLB game as it is going to a Korean baseball game. Just the fans, the cheering, the songs. You have to be there to experience it. So I wouldn't rank one above the other. I'd say both are incredible experiences when they're on. But Korean baseball is always on, as far as I'm concerned. I've never been to a game when there's not been cheering, when it's not been exciting. Unless you're like 15 runs down with the 4th inning. But it's consistently excellent, Korean baseball.
Yeah. Nice. So you talked a lot there about certain players and stuff, but you haven't mentioned something which features a lot in our podcast, and it's quite disappointing. As an LG Twins fan, I've been waiting for this particular garment, particular type of merchandise sold at the stadium, which divides opinion more than anything else in Korean baseball.
That'd be the shiny jacket.
That would be the shiny jacket. Do you have one?
No, I don't. I remember seeing it like when I was going to my first set of games, and I thought obviously, I think it looks ridiculous, but it was the old logo. It was this one here.
Yeah.
They wanted one, but the time I was getting into the Twins, they'd switched logos, so it's onto that new sort of bold sort of typeface on the front, which makes it old style shiny jacket. So the new font on the back of the jacket. So I think if it was this font, I would have got it. I think it looks really classic. But they're over 100,000. When am I going to wear it?
You wear those on the night out in Inverness.
I'm just going to wear it in the house watching Twins game. And things I probably will buy one eventually. But I can't go out in public like that. I am tempted. I am tempted to do it. So watch this space.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done. Bradley.
I've yet to see anyone wear one in public outside 100 meters of a ballpark here. So you wouldn't be the only one who wouldn't want to wear it in public.
No, I think I've kind of given myself that challenge now. That'll have to be done. I'll have to, get a photo outside Edinburgh Castle or something next time I'm down in Edinburgh, a famous landmark with the Twins shiny on. But yeah, my friends in Korea, and there's one in LA, Tim as well. I mean, he's in love with that. If it's almost worth me buying that jacket just to send him a photo of me wearing it. He would be enamored with that. So watch this space.
Yeah, hopefully. I tried on a shiny jacket before in Jamsil, and I got the photographic evidence of it too. I think if I were a LG Twins fan, I would buy one. But because I'm not an LG Twins fan, I think it's deplorable, absolutely deplorable. But it's definitely one of those things you would have to own, I think, if you were a fan of that team. And like as Brad was saying, like 100 yards away from the stadium, can you imagine like you're on a flight somewhere? And the thing is, like Koreans are really good travelers to see that, especially like in Europe. Younger Koreans, maybe they spend a year living in Edinburgh, Dublin, London, or whatever, learning English, and then they're on a boat in Montenegro or something. If you wore that LG Twin shiny jacket in deepest Ukraine or Belarus or Moldova, you will pass some Korean person who knows exactly what that is. And it'll make their day.
Yeah.
You should buy the jacket just to make solo Korean tourists just make their day.
I've often thought about that in terms of if I'm wearing my cap on the golf course or something, if somebody would recognize it and understand that, that's an LG Twins cap. It hasn't happened yet. But this hasn't been the best year for it. There's not been as many tourists. Yeah. And you won't maybe get as many in Inverness, but I'm sure it would if I went to a bigger city. I'm sure that would be more likely.
Yeah, actually, I wore a Tigers, not like a uniform, like a T-shirt before, but it had a handgun on the back in Rome a long time ago. And it was the last time I wore it on that trip because as we were kind of walking around the front of the Vatican, this Hannah tour bus pulled up outside the Vatican. And the doors opened as I'm walking by, and the screaming that was going on from the people inside the bus. It was the most amazing thing they'd seen. Some foreign guy wearing a Kia Tigers T-shirt. They probably thought I didn't know what it was. Like you see guys wearing a T-shirt with Japanese writing or something at the front back home. They probably have no idea what it says. But yeah, I think you should do it. Brad, you want to interrupt here?
Yeah, my two comments on the shiny LG Twins jacket. As someone who doesn't support the team, I'm going to say two things. It's ugly, but it's probably the most iconic piece of wearable merchandise in the world of baseball. There's no other team in Korea, the United States, Japan, Taiwan, anywhere else that has a piece of merchandise that is so specific to one team than that jacket. So like it, love it, hate it. There's just something about that jacket, and you guys hit the nail on the head. It's recognizable anywhere in the world to anyone who knows about Korean baseball.
That's a question you've answered for me. Then was is there anything similarly garish, so to speak, in Korean baseball or indeed anywhere else in baseball? Because it wouldn't be like a baseball team too. I mean, the Twins have based themselves on they've copied everything, I guess, from. So that's quite interesting. They've come up with a unique sort of bit of merchandise. It's not just based on something else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you look at MLB. I mean, you get team hats, jerseys. You can get like a sweater. You can get a zip jacket for any team. They're even punting MLB hand sanitizer right now. But there's just something like you can get any pro sports team has a jacket you can wear, but nothing is shiny like the Twins. And even in Korea, no other team has copied that. There's probably a reason for it. But like fair play, it's iconic, and any other team that tried to replicate that, I think a Korean would look at it and say, "Oh, you're just ripping that off, or you're just copying that image," because nothing says LG Twins and uniqueness like that jacket.
And it's made for postseason runs for the cold weather.
Yeah,
normally doesn't get that far.
Yeah. No. You don't see a lot of terribly worn LG Twins jackets.
Good stuff. I always love talking about a shiny jacket on Grand Slam KBO. It's time for Hall of Fame nominations for this week. We have our guest Hall of Fame nomination. If you win this, your name goes up on the leaderboard forever, and you'll be ahead of Brad, even though Brad's done about 7 or 8 of these too. So I wish you all the best with this one, Stephen. And as far as I know, I'm leading this 4-3-0. But there was the KT Wiz Water Park won it last week. Justin's won it last week. So we have a new name on the weekly leaderboard, which I'm sure Matt will post during next week's show. Still no sign of Brad's name on the leaderboard, but there is a new name on there. So let's let our guest go first. What is your nomination for KBO Hall of Fame?
So I guess my nomination, it's related to Jamsil Stadium, and just the basically the convenience stores and the fact that the beer isn't marked up at all. It's the same price as you can get it out in the street. Just the whole state. I mean, you go to go to Gocho, and it's really quite expensive, all the stuff. They could definitely make a lot more money, but I love the fact they don't now. The new stadium, that might change. The old ladies that run the shops are always so friendly. Just that adds to the experience of going to Jam Show for me. You got your dakboki and things like that. All that sort of old school. It's a dump. The stadium's a dump, basically, and I love that. And I love the fact that the prices in the shop reflect that. It's 2020, and it's very refreshing to see not only the tickets cheap, but the beer's cheap, and I enjoy that for now. And I hope that stays. With a renovated or new stadium, I suspect it won't. So that is what I put forward as, especially in modern sports. At top level, I think that's pretty cool that you can go and have not damage your wallet too much, have a good time. I think in the modern era, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so Stephen's going with the old ladies and sometimes the old men outside Jamsil Baseball Stadium who are selling beers and gimbap and octopus and a bit of everything, and then the cheap alcohol and food that's available inside the ballpark too. Yes, it's 4,400 won, which is around about is that $4, Brad? I don't know, for a liter of beer inside the stadium.
Yeah, and fair play. That's a great suggestion, and they're keeping it economically viable for a guy and his family, and people who want to bring his wife and his kids to the ballpark, and those guys keep it affordable. So it's a good thing, definitely.
You guys ever bought any food from non-chicken related? You guys ever bought any food outside the stadium?
I have the barbecued squid, and I know for the unindoctrinated, it may not sound terribly good, but you have that. It's much better than it sounds, and it tastes better than it smells. So yes, many a time, Andrew, many times.
Barbecue squid. Okay. Do you pick up anything?
I look forward to having some with you.
Yeah, you guys are making me. I'm very envious right now that you guys can actually go and experience this. It's just. That's one of the first things you see when you come out of the subway is just, Jamsil, just all those, the smells and just all that different food. Yeah. But normally I just go for the chicken to be fair. I think I have purchased something different on occasion. I can't remember what. I think it was squid.
Oh, you went for the squid as well. Yeah, I've had gimbap there before. It feels weird having gimbap outside the baseball stadium. Chicken is the winner. I just find it funny that you like baked squid or barbecue squid, whatever it is, so much. It seems like a niche enough suggestion. I'm surprised you haven't nominated that yet for your Hall of Fame. You did do the squid balls before, though.
I did do the squid peanut balls, yeah.
What's your suggestion for this week to get off the big donut you currently sit on?
My nomination this week, it's a time, and I would like to nominate the 2:00 Sunday afternoon baseball match. Now, if you know the history of baseball, baseball is an outdoor daytime sport. Obviously, innovations have been made in lighting to make it available to play during the evening time, which is cool, and that's great, and going to an evening game. But as a North American, as a Canadian, as someone who's traveled extensively through the United States, and someone who has a lot of respect for evening games, there's nothing better than an early afternoon match, 1:00, 2:00, maybe 3:00. The sun is shining. I don't care how hot it is. You know, you got sunscreen. There's a reason why baseball hats have this brim. You're sitting outside. You've got a cold drink in your hand, maybe a hot dog, maybe something else, and you're watching the guys play, and it's a great feeling. You're working on your suntan. You're at the game, and there's just literally nothing better. So I nominate the 2:00 game, not only for the old-timey, old-fashioned feel of what, to me, baseball is, but in a country like Korea, if you go to a 2:00 game anywhere in this country, you can take the game in and you can be home wherever you live by 10, 11, latest 11:30 at night. Get to bed and start your next week. So I nominate that. It's only a very short period of time during the season. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, late May, early June that the 2 p.m. games stop. But there's nothing better than a mid-afternoon game of baseball. Full stop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
That's your most passionate suggestion so far. Normally,
I'm still going to lose.
Normally, there's things like a subway station that he likes in Seoul, or the actual Metropolitan Seoul train system itself, or Mukdong. He nominated Mukdong Baseball Stadium before. But 2:00 starts for Brad. I was going to do something else until Stephen started talking about his first game there, and I don't know. It seems like I feel like I can put in a suggestion like this because I'm currently leading on this leaderboard at the moment. But I will nominate first KBO experiences for anybody out there, because I remember my first ever game 11 years ago. The Tigers beat the Twins, and I embarrassed myself with the Canadians I was with. The Canadians I was working with brought me to my first game, and the Tigers were leading obviously at the midpoint of the ninth inning, and the players were applauding, the crowd going off, and I just didn't understand why they didn't go into bat at the bottom of the ninth. So I asked that question out loud instead of going to do some research maybe and sort of saving the embarrassment. But I thought that the first game, I was so hooked on the first game, and when I moved to Korea, I wanted to watch K-League soccer and K-League football because it was what I was used to watching at home. But having gone to one Korean baseball game, it just took one game, one KBO game ended the possibility of watching football in Korea. So I will nominate first KBO experiences as my suggestion. And I look forward to winning again this week.
Well, that's a great topic for a future podcast, all of our first KBO experiences.
Well, yours was at your team. You went to see the Doosan Bears, your team for your first game, man.
That's true. They had the boomerang on the uniform back in those days, and I still have the uniform that they bought at that match.
Cool. We're nearly done for this week then, guys. So Bradley, again, thank you for coming on to the show. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Enjoy the rest of your alcoholic beverage in front of you. Danny Kurtz always loves talking about adult beverages in the show. What exactly are you drinking there?
I am drinking something that is called Bokbunja. I would describe it as a wine of sorts, a berry wine. It's translated as a black raspberry wine. Not terribly sweet, which is a good thing because my wife tells me I'm sweet enough. But it's a great product. I recommend. You could probably get this outside of Korea at a Korean or an Asian grocery store. Inside of Korea, you can get it at any convenience store, but it is fantastic. So,
what's the strength?
Oh boy, what does it say here? 25%. So,
I was sorry to interrupt. I do have probably the most unique running playlist in the world.
Okay.
Well, I've got my usual sort of dance or Calvin Harris, whatever. But then there's a fair few LG Twins songs on there. Ojiwan song. There's all the songs they play at Jamsil for every inning, sort of thing. Between the innings and stuff, are all on my playlist, and that's been years. And you know what? They still fire me up. Like running down that last mile, that LG fight song that comes on when they're going into their last inning. That still fires me up for the last mile. So.
All right, guys, thank you very much for your time here today. Stephen, thanks for coming on to the show.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
Keep doing it again. Yeah, keep watching the LG Twins from your home in Inverness, and hopefully this is the year. What would you do, though? Last question, I promise. Last question. What would you do if the LG Twins finally managed to win a title this year of all years when it was impossible to go back to Korea? Would it matter much, or would it continue inside?
I think, if I was unselfish, I'd be delighted. But, being egotistical, I'd be a bit gutted I couldn't make it over. My plan was the October holidays would just be to take off and go. And even if I don't get a ticket, just be there. And especially with it being Park Yong-taek's last year, I know that he's sort of quoted as saying that it was his dream to hit that walk-off home run in Game 7. It would be just one of those things, if there's not the fans there and stuff, it would be just typical. But I would take pleasure in looking at the fans' reaction. The guys that have been turning up for decades. So I'd still be delighted. But if they could wait till I'm able to come, that would be even better. So.
Okay. Well, look, we hope your team gets you across the line at some point. So from myself, Brad, and Stephen, thanks for listening to the show, everybody, and we'll talk to you again next week. Goodbye.